of the 4 key areas we're going to be talking about. And those 4 areas are the purpose of the user group, the purpose of the client conference, the reasons to connect your users and clients, types of effective networking events at these specific types of events, and at the end of the day, when you put it all together, the return on investment for hosting these structured networking events, not only for the hosting client, but for the participants as well. Beginning with, for those who are not as familiar with user groups and client conferences, where did they start? How did this come about? Well, although I don't know the exact origins based on some research and some discussions I've had, the real origin begins many, many years ago, and it started with the technology companies, the IBMs, the Ciscos, Oracles, Apples, who all identified, hey, if we bring our users together, those that use our programs and services for their business agendas, and bring them all together and create a forum of excitement where we can showcase our products and services, etc., that we can create such a community that they'll love us and they'll come back for more, and essentially they'll become groupies and go from there. So that's been going on for many, many years, at least 20-plus years. And then what happened is many other industries caught on to this and said, wow, I love this type of marketing, this type of branding of the product. Why can't we do this for our company? Doesn't matter what industry they're in. And so they went ahead and did so. So we see it in many different industries, all across the board, and all bringing their clients together, their consumers together, their users together to build that community and excitement and showcase the products and services that they have to offer, bring people together who are like-minded professionals. And it's evolved, and it's evolved, and it's evolved. And where it is today, wow, these events are now huge showcases of the programs, but in addition to that, they're having all types of festivities and guest speakers and entertainment. And now one of the biggest things that we're seeing from our clients is all about the networking. They're finally realizing, oh my goodness, I have 1,000 people, 10,000 people here, to all like-minded professionals, and there's so much for them to connect and to discuss for so many reasons. And as I touched on that a little bit on the objective, so I've kind of hit on a couple of those already about the showcasing and the bringing people together, but the other thing that it's a big item for them is it's an additional revenue center. Point in case, Salesforce has Dreamforce, and at Dreamforce, they bring together all the users of Salesforce, and there's thousands, millions of them all around the world using Salesforce, and they brought everyone together, all these like-minded organizations. But then they got a knock on the door, and some of the suppliers to Salesforce says, hey, we'd love to come and showcase our product and service to your users, even though we're not in direct competition to you, and we're willing to pay you, Salesforce, for being there. And Salesforce, a light went over the head, and they said, wow, we can use this space and have it completely underwritten by our providers that provide to Salesforce. Fantastic, and we hope they succeed. And then they also started charging people to attend this, and etc. There's some people they might comp, and some they might not. And it became a major revenue center. It's actually a very profitable event for Salesforce now, called Dreamforce. And at the end of the day, who attends these sessions? And they're attended by, obviously, the customers and the prospects and the users of these programs and services, but also partners. Those that are not direct competitors, but they're partners of the hosting company. And then finally, non-direct competitors will attend these conferences from all over the country because they know there's such a large audience of people of exactly who they want to meet. It sometimes makes sense to go to those conferences versus a trade association conference. It's very concentrated, and they've seen a real big uptick in that that type of individual attending. So let's start to make a transition into the reasons to connect the customers, the users. Let's talk about why this is becoming such a popular element at these conferences all around the country. And one of the major reasons is collaboration. Again, you have like-minded professionals who are very familiar with this, whatever the specific industry, the type of business, type of service, etc. And they realized that they can create collaboration of business synergies, new partnerships amongst themselves, even mentoring. When someone wasn't as familiar with something else within the industry, they can guide each other. And then essentially they create a community when they start to collaborate amongst one another. And one of the things they're always going to remember is, where did you meet? Well, I met, for example, at the Dreamforce conference. It's fantastic. Can't wait to see you back there again. And we'll talk in between that. Another real growing part is peer-to-peer, where they can exchange feedback with like-minded professionals. Everybody has different ways of learning and bringing on new resources. And when you're sitting with that like-minded professional, you can exchange information, exchange knowledge with your peers in a very comfortable environment. They get you. They know it makes you tick. You know, all the jokings aside, the stereotypes and all that. You know, we all kind of know what makes each other ticks when we're in specific industries. And there's a lot of excitement about that, and we need to find that, and these organizations are finding ways to get them to connect and just get them excited even more. And obviously it increases access to resources. Someone might be working at a company in California and other ones in Boston, and they share these great resources back and forth around the country to each other to help further their organizations and their companies. And finally, business development. And make no mistake that people come also to help build development pipeline, sales pipeline, and these conferences provide that forum to allow two individuals who might work for different companies, they find synergies together, and they're building a pipeline of business together. So as we move forward, one of the most important questions that when I talk to the clients around the country, they'll say, Mike, you know, how do you make this all come together? How do you, what do you suggest? You know, we love having the cocktail receptions. We love going on the social outings and having the golf things, and, you know, it's a ton of fun, and, you know, everyone's having a great time. And I'll ask them straight up, I say, you know, tell me the outcome of this. What's it doing for them? Have you gotten the feedback? They're like, no, but we're having a great time. I said, well, how do you measure a great time? They said, I don't know, but I had a good time. I said, well, there you go. It's not necessarily about you. It's about the individuals and asking them. And everyone does their surveys, etc., but the response on those surveys is so minute. It's so small on there. So we've talked about how can we really get people engaged. What do we really need to do? And some of the more popular, as I put this presentation together, I come down that there's really three major items that I'm seeing about really getting the folks engaged at these conferences. And the first one is roundtables. And roundtables are fantastic. They've been around forever. There are great ways of doing it. The nice thing is it's a low administrative maintenance agenda. They're fairly easy to put together. But in order to do a really good one, you need to put some good thought into it. So I give a couple examples here. One is Ask the Expert, in which you have a round table, and quite honestly, it doesn't matter if it's a square, rectangle, or whatever, just a group of maybe 4, 6, 8, 10 people starts to push it, in my opinion, at a table, and there is someone at that table that is an expert in something that is relevant to that conference. Now, it could be that you bring in guest speakers. Maybe it's one of your clients that's going to lead a panel on something, and everybody knows what that is. And one of the keys to the success of a roundtable is to make sure whoever is moderating that roundtable understands how to engage everyone at that table. Because traditionally, if you don't have it well executed and a good moderator at that table, what happens is those conversations are often dominated by 2 or 3 people. And the remaining people feel left out and don't contribute. And they walk out of that room saying, you know, I didn't really wasn't able to contribute, the conversation wasn't interesting, etc. So that moderator is very critical. They're going to go around and make introductions of everybody, make them feel welcome, and then as they go around the discussion, they're going to keep an eye on who's not engaging and ask them to contribute to those conversations. As well as theme-based, and similar to Ask the Expert, but it's just a general discussion. A moderator of all the roundtable says, I'd like you to everyone introduce themselves at the table, and I'd like you to engage in a conversation about X. Everyone take 1 minute and introduce themselves, etc. And there's no right or wrong way of doing roundtables. You can have them for 10 minutes a session, 15 minutes a session, 20 minutes a session, but the key to success is to have somebody overseeing the moderation, facilitation of this to make sure people are properly engaged in this so that there's a positive outcome. Next up, social outings. Been around for a long time. They're a lot of fun. They do take time and effort on behalf of the event host to put these together. Most common is obviously cocktail reception, sporting events, destinations, as most of these conferences, not most, but many of the conferences that we're going to where we're seeing them are in Vegas, Orlando, Scottsdale, DC, destination cities where there are fun things to do. Not to put down anybody in any other town or city, but that's where a good chunk of these events are at. Nobody wants to come to Chicago, where I'm based, in January and February. There's nothing fun to do here except for shovel snow at that time. Just kidding. It's a great city. But point being, those cocktail receptions, and they're good events, but again, the challenge with it is if there's no great way to facilitate connections to them, then again what happens, people talk to the people they already know, or they buddy up with somebody because that's who is sitting next to them, and then they end up talking to them the whole time. So one of the things I tell the clients, I said, look, if you're going to go down the route of a cocktail reception, my recommendation is that you identify an X number of people, maybe 10, 12 staff members of your organization who are outgoing folks, and sales and marketing team to be a part of that event. And it is their job to walk around and help facilitate and make connections for individuals in that room. I've been to plenty of cocktail receptions, and I go in there and I walk in, and it's hard. You don't know anybody. You're new to this conference. You're going out there alone, and you don't know who to talk to. And you get stuck meeting one or two people that are just not the right people, and there's no one there to help you. There's no one there, and it's awkward to walk at someone, stare at their name tag, and decide if they're right for you. But if you had a host from your organization and say, hey, Mike, I see you're here. Fantastic. Love that you made it. Look, I know you're from Chicago. I know you work for this company. I've got a great person that I'd love to introduce you to. They're just joining us for the first time as well. You're both in the same industry. You both have some parallels. Would love to make the connection. Make that connection, and then they moderate that room and work that room. And it wouldn't be right if I didn't make a note on speed networking. It's my plug here. I'm a little biased on the speed networking, having been in it for many years. But this is where there's tremendous growth. And there's a lot of growth around the country at all these corporate events, these corporate customer events, these user conferences throughout the country. And they're using speed networking in ways that were not thought of many years ago, in ways that we're very engaged with. So they have all these people in the room. And we said, well, it's not enough to just do a speed networking event where one group stays on one side and one other group rotates to the left, to the right. It's not enough because it's potluck. You don't know who you're going to get. And while it's great that they're going to meet 10 new people, we don't want to put them in the environment if there's an opportunity to make it more structured, to really ensure that their time is used wisely and the return on their time makes them very happy. So what have we seen? We've seen peer-to-peer networking programs in which individuals get to pre-select the types of individuals they want to meet prior to coming to the speed networking event. And when they arrive, they're given a schedule that says in round one, you're going to meet with this individual who you were really interested in, and on the flip side, they were really interested in meeting you. And traditionally, most of the speed networking events are in a one-to-one relationship. The timing is anywhere from 4 up to 10 minutes per round. And when you do that peer-to-peer and they sit down and they said, wow, you understand my world, I understand your world, the facilitator's giving them some instructions on what to discuss, or they're looking at their sheet and they know what the other person wants to discuss, they go right into conversation, and wow, peeling them apart, sometimes you gotta bring in something to wedge them apart. When it goes on to the next round, they go to the next person and bam, they meet another great person they're really interested in connecting with. So that's what a peer-to-peer is about, knowledge sharing. And then the host and the client. You know, some of these large conferences, when I say host and client, I say, well, from the host, the hosting organization, have experts from all different fields within your company. Maybe it's about, if it's technology, it's about mobile technology, implementation, running reports, who knows what it might be, and allow the participants to select the types of experts they want to meet and go through all the rotations on that. That's another great way of doing it. You can also simply do it on a standard rotation. On one side are all the experts from the hosting organization, and on the flip side are all the clients that get to go right down the line, spend 10 minutes with each one of these people, or 5 minutes, and getting to know them so they have a face-to-face connection. Because sometimes in these conferences where there's thousands of people, it is so hard to meet the right person you really want to meet, and you want to get some good time with them. And this is sometimes sets the stage for that very efficiently. Business development. Again, bringing all the users to this conference, as I mentioned a few slides ago, all the different types of people that attend these conferences. So some are there for business development. Why not put them back in that same forum, in that room, and allow them to pre-select the types of people they're interested in getting to know for potential business development relationships. There's so many different synergies that can take place, and if you empower the users and the clients and you empower them to pre-select the types of people and they come to a structured format, only very good things can come out of that. The worst thing I've ever heard anybody say, you know what, they were a really good person, not a right fit for us, we'll stay in touch, but I met another 3 or 4 great people at that event, and we'll see where that goes, but I'm for sure going to follow up with them. And mentoring. Mentoring could be you have some clients that are very well engaged with your programs and services, or users who are very well engaged with the program. And they may be interested in connecting with people who are new in the new to the group and new to the conference. And it's a way for them to collaborate, and they can mentor to the younger person, or not younger but newer person in the industry, and get them feeling involved. And it's a lot of fun as well. You know, and what's in it for the mentors? Who knows? Maybe the user group provides them a discount or something, or it has a special party. I mean, there's so many different things to do with this, but it's all about engaging the individuals in unique ways, in structured ways, and in ways that can be measured with results. So finally, we're going to wrap up on the return on investment and what's in it for you and your customers. Why do this? Why are the groups going this extra mile to create structured networking programs and get the individuals to collaborate more, peer-to-peer networking, etc.? Well, number one, it increases customer satisfaction. They come, they listen to all the wonderful things about the company that they know a lot about, and they don't want to be sold the whole time. And when they get to meet these other like-minded individuals, they walk away more satisfied, saying, wow, not only did I learn great information about the programs and services of this company, but I walked away meeting some fantastic people that I intend to keep in touch with, and guess what? I can't wait to come back to the next one, because it's going to be a ton of fun. I've made some friends. They're going to come back, and we're going to continue to grow upon this. And what does that do? Well, we just boosted his retention rates. We're going to come back. They're making friends. They're having a great time at this conference, and that's what we want to happen. Finally, also allows valuable customer feedback. I once told the client, I said, you know, let's do a speed networking event, and when you're speaking with the clients, why don't we have a specific round that they're going to give you all the feedback, or when they're talking to the peers, they're going to give all the feedback. How can the client improve the products and services, and there's all that chatter, but oh my goodness, I wish they could do this, this, and this, and they gather that information, they bring it back to the companies, and they say, wow, they didn't want to tell us to our face that they really needed this, but this is what we've learned. This is the feedback that they want us to change. And finally, referrals, referrals, referrals. The best type of return on investment. So when they go home and they say, I had the greatest time at the XYZ user group conference or user company event, client conference, had a great time. You really need to reconsider joining this company. They really make you feel welcome. You go to this conference, you meet all types of great information in addition to making great contacts, and it has elevated the ability for me to be more productive at my job in so many great ways, and I was having fun the whole time. So we're coming up to about 30 minutes, and I just wanted to wrap up on this conference call. And it's just this process of getting people more engaged at these user group conferences, client conferences, etc. It does more than many think, and this is why so many corporations and user groups are coming back to groups like speednetworking.com and others to identify better ways to connect people at these conferences in very structured, methodical ways to continue to stay competitive against other customer conferences and user group conferences, to make sure that their people are getting connected, getting the information they needed to be more productive, more efficient at their own jobs, and they want to be known as the organizations that help them get there. So I thank you all for taking time out of your day. For some of you are having lunch. For some of them you might be wrapping up some breakfast, depending on if you're on the East Coast or West Coast. If we can be of any help, our information is right there on the site, and I know that if you're on the call, we'll do a follow-up with this for you, so you can always come back and review the webinar. In addition to that, you call us if you have any questions. Several of us are standing by. We'll be happy to elaborate on this some more. And again, thank you for your time, and have a great day.